It is okay to fail as long as you're failing forward. The biggest thing is that they're so energy efficient, especially if you use them the way they're designed, is setting and forgetting.
What is it beyond the financial advantages that you guys get from being a part of that larger national franchise? All right, everybody, hello and welcome to episode 4 of the inspection report. Today we are joined by Joey Koncoski of Comfort Systems Temp Services to chat a little bit about the company here locally and regionally and HVAC services in general as it might relate to home buying and real estate transactions.
Or just home ownership or building ownership.
That's right. I'm Jed Deal, your co-host. As always, joined by Tim Netzley, professional inspectors with Inspect Montana. Joey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, pleasure to have you. Take a few minutes, introduce yourself for people who aren't aware of you and your role within the Temp Services organization, if you can.
So Joey Koncoski, I'm in the heating, cooling, ventilation, refrigeration, and plumbing industry, otherwise known as a mechanical contractor. Work for Temp Services. We service all of Western Montana, 3 locations, Missoula, Kalispell, and Bozeman. Then in Western Montana, Missoula in the late 70s, and got acquired by a national company called Comfort Systems USA in the mid-90s. The way Comfort Systems work is we are OPCO, so operation company. Comfort Systems has a little under 100 operation companies throughout the United States. They're headquartered in Dallas. This is the first big publicly traded company I've ever worked for. And I did have some reservations about that. So in my interview process, I asked, and I was told, hey, we operate the way we want to operate. We're not a franchise. There's no you're going to do what corporate says we're going to do. And I said, okay, what are the benefits? Because, well, the benefits we basically have a really big bank account, and that means your health insurance is going to be super cheap, and our buying power is unlimited, and we have great relationships with all the vendors. I'm 5 years into it, and all that ran true.
But you otherwise operate quite effectively as a local company.
Yeah. So back to we operate as a local company. That's why our name is so long. Temp Service, Comfort Systems USA, because we are Temp. And that's how Comfort Systems USA, they want you to keep your local brand and name. And they're just literally the parent company. When we talk about other companies within the Comfort Systems portfolio, we refer to them as our sister companies.
I think that would be refreshing to anybody who's worried about the big corporation effect, if you will, of service-oriented business, whereas a lot of clients might feel lost in that corporate setting. But I know from experience myself that you guys don't operate that way. And that's...
Yeah. In my role at Comfort Systems, I am a retrofit commercial sales. That's my role. And in the 5 years, I have lost one job saying I went with a local company. And that really lit a fire underneath me. So I called her and I said, well, what does local mean to you? And she had this objection, that objection. And I said, we have 150 employees in Western Montana that all spend their money in Western Montana. And our president of Temp, born and raised Western Montana. Our vice president goes 3 generations back and has a homestead in Sealy Lake. How more local do you want me to get? So there's that.
Yeah, there's just that fear when anybody approaches. There's the fear of getting lost in the service, not having good service because there's this big system that's overseeing all this instead of the local attention that you would get.
Right.
You guys are operating you are a local company.
Right.
That just happens to be in this larger family. So I think that's something that is vital to make clear to everybody that you guys operate that way.
Right.
You said that the company started in the late 70s and then about 20 years later, late 90s, got acquired by Comfort Systems. Doing some research on your guys' website and things that's available. Started with 3 employees when it was just Temp, and now, as you said, about 150 employees. With that acquisition by Comfort Systems, they're not in the business of acquiring struggling companies. So what is it beyond the financial advantages that you guys get from being a part of that larger national franchise? What is it beyond that Temp Services does right that's making the difference?
Great question. It starts with the unwavering commitment to both of our customer bases. So we have two sets of customers. We have our internal customers and our external customers. Our external customers will not be satisfied or happy with our product services if our internal customers, i.e. our employees, are not satisfied with their work or their workplace. So there is a personality, a bravado, I don't know the word for it, in our company where it is okay to fail as long as you're failing forward. We all make mistakes. The goal is not to make the same mistake twice. But if I were to let a coworker down or a coworker lets me down, if it's the janitor or the president, we go straight to each other and we chat, how can I do better? That overflows into our customer base, our paying customer base, to where if there's a miscommunication, and I've been guilty of it, of the customer thought he was getting one thing and he got something else, we didn't do a change order. We just ripped the equipment out, took what he thought he was getting, and it was done.
That seems to go very hand in hand. On your website, you guys also list just the organization's core value in terms of providing peace of mind through an exceptional customer experience.
Correct.
And it sounds like your ability to do that by being employee focused first. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. To elaborate on that a little bit, in the trades, it's hard to find good talent and it's hard to keep good talent. And
It's getting harder.
Right. I have 4 kids and my 2 older boys, they went through high school, told them they need to go to college, get a 4 degree and become an influencer, code. Seriously. And it's like, well, one has realized that, man, the trades sort of pay well. And the other one realized, well, if I could turn a wrench on these arms for Amazon, I'm getting paid really well. We need tradesmen. And when you need tradesmen and you want them to do quality work, you treat them with the utmost respect and with dignity. You cater to their personal their personal needs. So it's, hey, my kid's sick today, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, that's fine.
Shouldn't be a refreshing thing to hear, but it is. Certainly not a mentality that we do building and code inspections as well as the private home inspections. And yeah, that's not a mentality that I see play out across job sites that I visit very often. So
That's the culture we strive for as well. But yeah, it's partly because we all came from other places that didn't.
Exactly.
you're right.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, man, you got to feel that pain sometimes to realize, oh, okay, this is not good.
Correct. Right. Kind of like that old adage, you can't be a good leader if you don't know how to follow too. You can't do well in an area that you have no experience in on all sides of that. As the leadership in our company, we as well try to take care of one another and take care of all our employees and have that open dialogue whenever it's necessary and as often as necessary, and cover one another as much as possible. But that does come with its own challenges, especially we're not 150 deep, but you've got 153 locations. You've got a little more coverage than we do, but nevertheless, that's important to set those priorities and to take care of one another and your employees so that they in turn want to be there and take care of the company as well.
Yeah. So the best example, and it's just happened recently that I could think of, and it still sort of blows my mind, but one of our best lead installers on the commercial retrofit team, he's one of the guys like, here's a set of plans. This is what we want to do. And he just gets the job done and the customer's always happy with him, right? Well, he got drawn for a couple of tags up in Alaska for this year. And I think he leaves today, the 15th. And he's gone for 8 weeks and it was no questions.
Yeah, that really speaks to the right culture.
Right.
For sure.
We're not Google. We don't have ping pong tables. We don't have free food.
Right. There's no beanbag chairs in your lobby or anything like that.
You can go hunting.
Yes, you.
That sounds like a Montana style company anyway. I guess getting more specific about the services you guys offer, I think a lot of just homeowners, home buyers have a general sense of what an HVAC contractor provides, a mechanical contractor provides in terms of, new installations of AC condensers or high efficiency furnaces, things like that. But you go deeper in a sense and offer some design services, which I'm sure comes into play heavily on the commercial side of things, but maybe a little bit on new construction residential as well. Can you just talk a little bit about those design services?
Yeah. So technically we have 3 engineers on staff, our president, when we have a mechanical engineer of record, and we have 4 engineers on staff. We have a design engineer, and then we have 6 engineers. And we have 2 engineers in training underneath those guys. So president I might be misspeaking, Travis, apologize, but he doesn't use an engineer. He's looking at spreadsheets and making sure we have a great company culture. With that being said, is we will do design build and design assist. So on the commercial side, hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, so we're going to design this, draw the plans, get the plans stamped and approved by the city, and install it. So we own it from this to actually moving the air or moving water, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's one section. Then we have design for new construction homes, where we'll do the exact same thing. We'll design, get them stamped, and then go from, again, starts from the paper, and then it's installed, and we own it for the life of that equipment, but we really like to own it for the life of the relationship of the person that's buying it.
We enter a lot of homes and buildings, and on the commercial side, there is more of a design aspect, designed particularly for that type of building, because all commercial buildings are slightly different. A lot of homes are similarly laid out size-wise as well. But now, we're not designers, but we do go into enough of these and we see this was not designed properly for this size of house, this layout of house. For the residential side, yes, specifically, I think what we see is somebody has come up with a system that gets hot and cold air to a space, but not necessarily efficiently. But that's really not tangible to the person who doesn't know any better, who's just sitting in the house, right? And you get that register over there doesn't blow as high as this register over here. That's a balance issue. That's a sizing of the ducting issue. How often do you get called out to fix those things? And how, from the very beginning, from a design standpoint, do you take care of those things, even in residential, where a lot of it could be cookie cutter?
Yeah, so residential, quote unquote, track homes, that's quote unquote easy. Okay, we have 3 style of homes. We're going to design these 3 systems. But when you have, custom homes or a retrofit, so that's typically happens during the retrofit, is
They leave the old ductwork in and try to accommodate the new equipment.
yeah, so I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here. In the mid 2000s, high efficiency furnaces came out and all this, what that they've been out, but the contractors were saying, hey, your energy bill, your natural gas bill, propane bill is going to go way down and you're going to be so comfortable. Well, that wasn't happening. Well, why wasn't it happening? Because the delivery of the air was not correct. So what's that mean? So you have this box that blows hot or cold air. Great. Well, it's going to blow hot or cold air through the ductwork. Well, if the ductwork is not masticed, taped, sealed, and insulated properly throughout the whole place, you're going to have cold zones. You're going to have hot zones. One thing you'll hear a lot is, hey, my furnace is in the garage. My primary bedroom's at the other end, and it just doesn't keep up. I need a bigger furnace. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, you probably don't, but let me check and inspect just to make sure. And you go either in the attic, or you go in the crawl space, or you go in the basement, and they have their main trunk, and then they have spider branches off, and then that trunk's getting smaller. And then all those branches where you have off your main trunk, there's holes that were drilled to connect, and that they didn't seal it. So you have all this air escape. Well, you times that by 10, you don't have any airflow in your master or your primary bedroom.
But the crawl space is conditioned.
And rats and mice love rats. So I've been in there are a lot of crawl spaces where it's nice and warm.
Yeah, right.
So it's all about the delivery. It's like, hey, buying a brand new car with flat tires. There's no point. It's, yes, design. If you listen to the homeowner and you say, you're right, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, we're going to put a system twice the size in here and keep the ductwork the same. Well, they're going to have the same issues, and it's going to be really loud, and it's going to sound like a freight train coming through your house.
Cool.
And no, they're really upset with you.
And it'll be more expensive.
Yeah.
Just to operate. So we see a lot where it seems there's 3 sizes of ductwork that anybody carries, and they install those 3 sizes in anything.
It's back home, baby.
Yeah. As you alluded to, the further away you get from the appliance, the smaller you go, so that the pressure evens out.
Yep.
And we see a lot of times where that balance hasn't happened effectively, especially with the retrofits, whereas the old ductwork is either wrapped in asbestos or just hard to get to. And so they're like, well, we'll just change the appliance or ductwork. And Mr. Homeowner doesn't know any better.
Right. No, they don't have. Yeah. And it's our job as professionals to inform them and educate them. And then they can make their own decision.
Yeah.
Riffing off that, every industry has its corner cutters, so to speak. And so you're talking about certain things as far as improper sizing and sealing not being done. What are some of the other corners being cut that you guys see on a consistent basis in the field that is just getting your attention, driving you crazy?
Yeah. So corner cutting started when a guy would pull up the house and he'd put his thumb out. And if he could see the house through his thumb, we need a 4-ton. Can't see the house. He goes, you get a 5-ton. So that's how they used to size. That's rule of thumb. That's where it starts. But some corner cuttings, putting furnaces in a not easy to get to spot and build. And just so, for instance, I'm not going to name any names, companies or anything, but there is a newer subdivision where they put furnaces all in the attic, and they're high efficiency furnaces. And when they're high efficiency furnaces, they condensate. That's
Exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. And terrible design.
Great design for another climate.
Correct. It's great for Florida, Georgia. It's not freezing there.
Yeah.
The problem is when the furnace is designed to produce condensate because it's high efficient, and then it gets below freezing and your attic is not getting heat or cooled, it's going to freeze.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what did the manufacturer do? Well, let's just they call it an attic freeze kit. So literally it's a little heater that they put right next to the condensate. Let's just design it properly. So that's cutting corner from a design side because now we're getting more square footage. We have more square footage in the garage. And so there's that. On a retrofit side, I hate saying this, but it's still, yeah, Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, let's just upsize your furnace and you're going to be really happy in your primary bedroom.
Right.
Or this is a good one on the daylight basements or the split system homes or full basements. It's always cold downstairs. It's great in the summertime, but it's always cold downstairs. Well, you need a new system down there. You're just a separate system. So you can have a system upstairs and a system downstairs. Well, how about if we deliver and remove the air properly? Add a return down there. Well, we could remove that cold air and then condition it. How about we put an averaging sensor down there? Those are just easy ways to go instead of trying to get every last drop of money out of your customer because it's just a new system.
Kind of along those lines, maybe a bit of a segue, but could you speak to the effectiveness of ERVs and HRVs?
Yeah, when I first learned about ERVs and HRVs, I thought it was black magic. And
This actually, for those that don't know what an HRV and ERV is, who mind explaining?
well, I'd like to hear it from you first, actually.
The HRV is a heat recovery ventilation system, and both of them function in many of the same ways. And then there's one's got a higher filtration system, so it's more of an environmental component to it. But it draws not only air from the outside as a typical central air system would do, but it draws air from the inside. So the thought is that it's already a little warmer. It mixes those two before it gets to the appliance. It's already a little warmer so that the appliance doesn't have to work as hard to warm that up. Correct. And then blows throughout the house. But also what it does is it creates more ventilation throughout all of the rooms in the house if it's installed properly.
Correct. And one of the, I guess to add on that, as far as my understanding too, is one of the main differences between ERVs and HRVs, and I always get it mixed up which one, but it can be pretty climate dependent, specifically when it comes to humidity on which one is most appropriate for your house, because one is more effective at either managing or allowing some of that exterior humidity to then get mixed into the interior air and maintain. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
Yeah, I'm not going to correct you because I deal with mainly HRVs, heat recovery ventilators. The fun fact is they're mandatory in all commercial settings. Okay. But in residential settings with new buildings, so we're going to say 2005 and up, we have less fresh air coming in. So one solution is a heat recovery ventilator that you install in your central air system. There's a pipe duct that goes to the outside, brings that fresh air in. So heat recovery. So it mixes with the return air in your furnace, warms and brings in fresh air. So it's heat recovery ventilator. Now, there's a whole bunch of different types and styles. For instance, like your mini split, you probably can't see, but it's so on mini splits or ductless heat pumps in a commercial setting, is something called a duct heater, where it will heat that air up when it's extremely cold out and then let the heat pump do the rest of the work.
As we were discussing off camera, heat pumps don't always do a great job in the extremes of temperatures on either end of the thermometer, but so having those supplemental assists, if you will, are quite important.
Yes. So my humble opinion, heat pumps are great. They're awesome when you're between 30 degrees and 110 degrees. They're great. When we live in environments where we have those swings here in Western Montana, like 4 months from now, we're going to have a 100-degree swing from what it is today, which is awesome. But every heat pump system needs supplemental heat. And homeowners, they don't realize when you talk about supplemental heat, they hear that they're getting another heater and they're not. It's part of the system.
Yeah.
It is part of the system.
So I learned the hard way that a mini split system, which are very popular, they do work great in certain temperature swings. But soon after we installed ours, we had, 2 or 3 years ago, about 2 months of sub-zero temperatures, and they did not keep up at all. So supplemental heat was imperative in weekdays. And to your point, it's really should be a requirement when all you have otherwise is a split system, a heat pump.
Yeah, and it's all about back to the design. If we're going to talk residential and they want to be green, we're going to go straight heat pump. Great, let's do that. We're going to go straight ductless heat pumps. Great. However, Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, you're going to need some supplemental heat. Get an electric baseboard or a electric wall fan unit and set it to 55 and just forget it. Yeah. just forget it. And with mini splits / stepless heat pumps, one of the same, the biggest thing is that they're so energy efficient, especially if you use them the way they're designed, is setting and forgetting. What that means is, hey, whatever your set point is, if you like it 70 degrees in your house, keep it 70 degrees and don't turn it down at night. Don't turn it up during the day. It's meant to keep a baseline. That's how they're so energy efficient.
We often turn ours off in the summertime and just open up all the windows. But when it gets that 2 weeks typically of 100+ degrees or, right around there, and then we'll turn them on again. So the air conditioning. We were told actually years ago that you should have them on hot or cooled, not auto, because they don't function as well. But everything I read after that, I said, that didn't sound right. Why would you have an auto setting? So everything I read after that said that was garbage information. But what do you say?
For the average homeowner, no, not have auto. Because especially if you have a multi-port system, meaning you have a high wall mount, a head in your living room, a head in your bedroom, and your head in your other bedroom, you're going to have one high wall mount that's in heating or cooling. And that's going to dictate if those are going to be heating and cooling. So it doesn't matter if your unit in your bedroom's in cooling. If your unit in your living room is in heating, that thing's not going to cool.
Gotcha.
Right.
That makes sense.
So when you go to auto, and this is especially true when people come from a forced air. Well, I set it to heat at 65 and cool at 72. Well, these are the little engines that could. So it's going to take a long time instead of just setting and forgetting.
Yeah, it makes total sense when you have multiple heads on one exterior unit. That unit can't be in hot and cold at the same time.
Well, the good news is that there are systems out there that can, but they cost about 3 times more.
Oh, yeah. Well, who wants that?
Any takes on ducted mini split systems? I've only interacted with those a few times on inspections where it's more of, that there's the condenser unit on the outside. It runs its line set to in this case, it was to an attic unit,
Yep.
But then it's actually ducted, kind of like a typical forced air system from there. That versus kind of separate heads. Do you have an opinion on that?
A ducted ductless?
A ducted ductless.
Yeah. I do have an opinion on it. Yeah. When I first heard about it, I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. So it's perfect when you're zoning your house or your commercial space. I was sharing through the commercial space when I said, hey, we're going to need supplemental heating. That's what we're putting this ducted ductless. In the industry, it's a fan coil unit. So ducted ductless. But in a house, hey, I want Susie's bedroom to be one zone. I want Johnny's bedroom to be one zone. I have my primary bedroom one zone. But my primary bathroom, it could share the same zone of my primary bedroom. So you're going to have that ducted fan coil, ducted ductless, serve the primary bedroom and the bathroom. So now it's just one zone.
Right. Okay. So that in a sense is partially a solution for a typical size condenser unit for a mini split system. I imagine there's a limitation on how many head units you can have up to a certain size. And I think in a residential setting,
there is a limit.
I think I've only seen 3 separate off of an individual condenser unit.
Going around with me one day.
Okay, yeah.
Same 5.
Right. Have you? Okay.
5 is typically the max.
Okay.
Okay. Without getting too technical, you can do up to 8 with a certain brand. But if you're going to do up to 8 off of one outdoor unit, we're talking residential only. With a residential application, a residential system is typically 5 tons. That's the biggest you're going to do for one outdoor unit. If you're going to do 8 off of that, you might as well just do 2 outdoor units to get your full capacity.
Okay.
The juice isn't worth the squeeze there.
Is there an efficiency difference between an 8-head ductless system versus a ducted ductless system?
Split hairs, yes. Sure. We're at point right there. That's the delivery. Whenever you add duct work, you're losing a little bit of efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. Okay. That makes sense.
When you look at your utility bill, you're going to be looking at pennies instead of, that's the difference.
I see. Okay.
Now, fan coil units have been around in commercial settings forever. Right. You don't see them very often in a residential setting at all.
Custom homes you do.
Yeah. Oh, is that more prevalent of late?
Past 10, 15 years. Yeah. Okay.
You know where they are because there's spots on the ceiling.
Yeah, but they're leaking.
The Kanye say it wasn't.
That's right.
That tended to.
That was an issue with one of the units that I saw with that system up in the attic is that, any kind of system, especially condensate producing systems, they need that secondary drain pan underneath if they're going to be low in it.
Well, if you didn't know, Joe, Jed runs the residential side. I do the commercial side. So,
good to know.
So I go into a portion of space. I just look for the spots on the drop ceiling to know where the coil units are. Right.
Well, and just to backtrack a little bit. Cutting corners is, okay, sometimes, we're going to have equipment in the attic, which is fine. So there's two really easy solutions. One solution is called a water bug. Hey, it's leaking water. It's going to go beep, beep, beep. Well, that's going to annoy someone. They're going to go check. Okay. Or you get a little more expensive solution, which is almost foolproof solution. Hey, it's leaking water. Shut down the equipment right now.
And we see that on more and more people are using those for water heaters and other appliances, or in some cases, a whole house system, especially if they travel and they want to make sure that that leak's not going on the whole time they're gone.
Yeah.
Shuts it all in there.
Yeah, really common for water heater retrofits because you're not necessarily going to be able to get that drain line off of the drip pan that would be required for new construction. Right. So if you can't drain it anywhere, then better to notify the homeowner that something's going on.
Yeah. So when you're just to riff on that just a little bit, when code calls floor drain for emergency situations, when your water heater goes kaput on you, the local government here has said, hey, we're not going to burden the homeowner of digging up a floor drain, right? Install one. So yes, they are allowing water bugs.
Yeah. I don't know that it would be an egregious overreach, in my opinion, that a brand new floor drain was forced to be installed.
Depends on where the venue system is.
Right.
In relation to our,
a concrete basement floor,
We're draining right into the crawl space.
Right. Yeah.
Or so.
True. In line with that, so codes and expectations from different jurisdictions are always kind of getting updated or changing. And what are the main challenges that the mechanical contractor faces today as far as meeting those expectations or code changes?
So there's two main challenges, in my opinion, is the external challenges and the internal challenges. The external challenges is if you built relationships with the code enforcement agencies, local code enforcement agencies, everybody's on the same page, and then all of a sudden they get a new director or a new boss and they decide to enforce a code that they used to enforce back east, and it happens being in the books here that has never been enforced. And it's like, ooh. So those, sometimes I feel that's ego driven. The internal challenges are when you try to be above board, when you're always following the manual J, you're always following the codes. And then another company proposes a solution and it doesn't show any of those codes or practices in the solution. And the customer comes up to you and like, well, why is it so different? And so now you're in a teaching mode. So those are the challenges.
Yeah. There's an occasional mechanical contractor that isn't even familiar with manual J, which is the sizing manual that is a standard across.
Correct.
So that's always fun.
Rule of thumb.
More specifically with code related things, Montana energy codes, one thing I see I'm kind of butting heads with guys on quite a bit is the energy code requirements for whole house ventilation. And usually it ends up with, them just asking, well, how do you want me to accomplish that? And I know that the energy code lays out a couple different alternatives. You can size your existing bathroom fans accordingly, or you can have a true whole house ventilation fan dedicated for that. How do you guys tackle that just in a residential setting?
Ask the homeowner. We ask the customer, and they're going to ask, well, what's the cost difference? So a lot of it's driven by cost. So what you'll see in spec homes, new builds, is you alluded to the bathroom fan. So they're going to put a quote unquote fart fan, bathroom fan in a laundry room on a timer to meet ventilation.
So it's not,
it meets code.
Yeah.
You're going to feel sticky in your house sometimes, but it still meets code. Right. There is other ways around that. You could install windows that have the vented slats in addition to the laundry room fan. So now you're making up the air you're taking out. Oh, that's good. Right? Or we do the HRV, or we do the whole home fan. I prefer to do the HRV if you have a fully ducted system. Bring in that outside air, you're getting good air. You're filtering it, so you're filtering out the pollutants from outside, natural or non-natural. But the spec home builder, and nothing wrong with spec homes, but that's been standard practice since I've been in this industry.
We've come a long way since the sick homes of the 90s when we were trying to,
right,
when we really started pushing the energy conservation. And we ended up wrapping everything so tight that we had terrariums growing inside the walls,
Exactly. So now we got to move that air out. Well, now like, well, we need some air back in.
I've written about this a little bit on our blog and the newsletter we send out, but one of the very persistent issues that I'm seeing in residential construction in our region right now has to do with sealed and conditioned crawl spaces. And this has an HVAC component, right? Because you've got
a rabbit hole, but go ahead.
right. And so, which is why I want to, because I want your take on it. But I've got, okay, so you've, in theory, a sealed and conditioned crawl space. It's not open to outside air.
Correct.
You do these things, you put a vapor barrier down.
Conditioning.
Right. And so,
It's a big deal.
no, and that's
But,
true.
oh, there are 3 options.
So energy code, as I understand it, there are 3 options of accomplishing a sealed crawl space. So there's what I would call sealed and conditioned, or sealed and supply air is an option. So what we typically run into is you've already got the furnace, high efficiency furnace down in a crawl space, for example. Ductwork is running from that, main trunks and the other trunks off of that. There's either a proper register on the supply end, or there's sometimes just holes drilled in the main trunk through the crawl space, which maybe would be an interesting thing for you to talk about as well. So that's more of a supply air system. There's also I don't know if it would be called a return air grate, but essentially there, as a component of that, there also needs to be a pass-through opening between the crawl space and the livable space. In the livable space, it would just look like a normal supply grate, but it's not dedicated to a duct per se. The other options are a mechanical exhaust, which is an inspection I just did. So you have a sealed crawl space. There's no supply air necessarily going to that crawl space, but it is supplied with an exhaust fan system that needs to.
I think to me, that's the weakest system that the code lays out as an option. Because there's not an air exchange. There's not. It's just sucking air out.
Right. Now that one requires the same pass through. So I don't know.
It always gets buried.
Which gets buried, or it never gets installed, or what have you.
What do you mean by buried? Is it a bookshelf gets installed, or a couch, or whatever that gets right on top of it?
Right.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. That exhaust air can be accomplished in different ways. HRV systems, I've seen them used in combination as a way to exhaust air out of the crawl space as well.
I think another option was no mechanical ventilation, but a pass-through on each end to the habitable space.
Inhabitable space. Okay.
The issue that continues to arise, as far as I'm seeing in new construction, is that there is potentially a several month period during the construction process where the crawl space is sealed.
Yep.
The flooring is on.
Yep.
But there's no insulation, there's no vapor barrier, and the HVAC system is obviously not in operational order. So, or there's no, there may be temporary power to the house for the project, but that's it. So you have damp soil, no vapor barrier to help prevent that, no insulation to help with humidity control, and then any of those supply or exhaust systems that would be in place during the final build are not present for maybe 3 to 4 months before it gets to that stage. And so mold growth in these spaces is something I'm encountering on a shockingly high rate.
Is it shocking?
Not anymore, because I've seen it so often. So I just had an inspection, same deal. It's only 5 years old. Had an exhaust system with what appeared to be, as far as the code is concerned, a properly sized exhaust fan. I think it's 1 CFM per every 50 square feet of the crawl space, something like that.
What's a CFM for the viewers? Right. Trying to school you.
No, and
cubic feet per minute.
Cubic feet per minute. Thank you. But 5-year-old home, and the mold through that crawl space was the worst I've ever seen.
Showing up in the wood?
Yeah, subfloor, floor joist, subfloor throughout the entire crawl space.
But let me guess, this is an attract home development?
Yes.
Yeah. You're asking my feelings about conditioned crawl space, or how do you address conditioned crawl space?
I would say feelings about sealed and conditioned crawl spaces in general.
Yes.
And then any input on it, if the insistency is there to continue to do it that way, what is the solution during the construction process to prevent that from happening?
So feelings on sealed conditioned crawl spaces, I do not like. Conditioned crawl spaces, in my opinion, is now you're paying to heat an area that you don't use. And if you do use it, and let's just be clear, I'm calling a crawl space that's maybe at best 4 feet high with the correct. So with gravel or dirt below that. And so if you do use it, you're going to be storing your boxes, your Christmas ornaments, your whatever. Right. So A, it's a waste of energy. So people that want to be green, you're not being green by having conditioned crawl space. It's waste of energy. B, you have so much more opportunity for mold growth, where it's just a no start. I would not build a home. I would not buy a home that has a conditioned crawl space.
Right.
I've ran into so many issues with conditioned crawl spaces. Before Montana, I was in Western Washington, so it was required to have vents in the crawl space. I am shocked by that. There's barely any vents in these residential homes. So the second part of that question is, how do you combat that? Well, I'm going to refer to the first part is coach your customers up and saying, hey, let's try not to have this conditioned.
Right.
If they must have a conditioned crawl space, forced stairs, in my humble opinion, the only way to go. And with that being said, it's not just having a register or a hole in the trunk. If it's a 2,000 square foot Rambler, it's meaning single level, so you have 2,000 square feet of crawl space, at least have 4 corners covered in the middle with ductwork.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
My opinion is run. Do not have conditioned crawl spaces.
I'm serious. I'm actually just knowing what I know from being in hundreds of houses in any given year. And I'm actually right there with you.
Yeah.
Based off of what I've seen.
That's funny. From energy standpoint, I have the opposite opinion.
I'd like to hear that.
Well, there is communication between even the most sealed crawl space and the habitable space. So whatever's going on in the crawl space is on some degree happening in the habitable space as well. Oftentimes, if you have mold in the crawl space, you have it in the attic too, because it's going up the walls. It's, all that.
Right.
There's no communication theoretically between the habitable space and the attic, but there is with the crawl space. And so when you seal everything off and condition it with the habitable space, in my opinion, we're not spending a lot of energy on the crawl space that doesn't end up in the habitable space anyway. And then we're keeping, because of our seasonal shifts, 100 degrees. Yeah. Like you're saying, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be affected by that in a crawl space if it's vented and not sealed. If its caveat is it has to be sealed properly, and it's not often.
Right. The sealed conditioned crawl spaces, in my opinion, is probably going to be cost driven because it's cheaper not to put holes in concrete. So from the beginning, I'm going to push back a little bit on unconditioned crawl space if it's vented and how it communicates with walls and attic. If you have a fully insulated crawl space in the floor joists and the penetration, so the wiring, plumbing, and HVAC penetrations sealed with foam, never happens. But it has, because I've done it.
Nearly never happen. It's kind of like your wife being 98% Norwegian as a honey. See,
honey, you got brought up in her pockets. Before I was in HVAC, I was in home performance, building energy. And so that's why I'm knowledgeable about this. So if it's insulated and sealed, there is very little communication as far as thermal communication, ground moisture communication, very little. Now, if it's not sealed, what I mean by sealed is spray foam in the wiring, plumbing, HVAC. If that's not sealed, but it's properly insulated, if you do a blower door test on that home, it's not bad.
A blower door test, for those listening, is a test for new construction or significant addition or remodel where it tests the air exchange rate naturally in the house outside of any mechanical help. So it basically says, how much is your house leaking? Correct.
Yeah. And it is required for all new construction as far as jurisdictions that hold people to it anyway.
Back to what code enforcements or what code challenges you have, this is what's enforced, right?
Right.
I mean, how long has that been a code now? I mean, that's been a code for
at least 15 years.
Right.
There's no residential building code enforcement in state jurisdictions. So outside of municipalities, cities, and counties that don't have their own building codes program, correct, there's no enforcement of it at all.
So back to conditioned, unconditioned, and blower doors. Everybody has probably heard, hey, I have a leaky house. They're not talking about water. They're talking about, I feel a little breeze coming through. For some reason, that door, you always feel something in that window pane. That's a leaky house. What you don't feel a lot is the leakiness in the crawl space or the attic. And that's where a lot of the energy is either lost or saved.
Well,
I'm talking about.
I will bow to your superior experience with energy. However,
still secure your venue.
I'd maintain my stance. What we can agree on, I think, is if done right, either one is fine.
Amen. 100%. Yeah. And again, I'm not trashing on contractors here, but when you have a 30 home plat and, you have this foundation set up to be poured that day, and then you're just going on and on and on. And if you don't have trusted, experienced relationships with your subcontractors, you're always going to run into those issues.
Yeah. And not to plug ourselves, but quality control inspectors is a really good idea.
Right. And then, hey, homeowners, if you are buying a home that's going to be built in a subdivision or even built for a custom home, it's okay to hire an inspector to inspect it during the process.
Yeah.
I'd say in the last 5 years, we've seen more and more of that.
Far more of that.
Before that, there was this idea that if I bought a brand new home, I don't need to have it inspected.
No, I mean, I pay good money. He's reputable. We get hired for the state jurisdictions that don't have the oversight
Quite often to do our phase inspections. Yeah, we're uniquely qualified in the sense that we've got all the building codes certifications as well. But if you don't, to your point, if you don't have those phase inspections where there's no oversight, or even in some places where they do have some oversight, we're looking at two different things sometimes. I look at the same things a lot of times as well, but we're looking at different things also. Rail, having that is imperative, especially if you can get somebody in close early enough to where they can review the plans, get to know the contractors, see how they're all working together, because we always preach that any building, any house is not just a bunch of systems, it's a system of systems.
Correct.
They all have to work together. Correct. A lot of contractors, I'm not dogging on contractors either, but they are great at what they do, and they don't necessarily work in conjunction with the other trades around them.
The right hand needs to talk to the left hand.
Other than scheduling.
Correct. Yeah, the right hand needs to talk to the left hand. And then for the everyday homeowner, when you hear GC, that's general contractor. They general in everything and don't specialize in anything. So they hire subcontractors. I'm a sub of HVAC plumbing.
And when we inspect phase inspections, we're a sub. You know,
Right. So I guess what I'm getting at is they need to be trusted and vetted. And like you said, the general contractors are good at scheduling, but not everybody's on the same page. So when you hire a general contractor to build a home from scratch, he has, how many subs do you think he's going to have?
at least half a dozen.
Okay.
On it. Yeah, it's a small house.
Right. Windows, there's a sub. Roofing, there's a sub. Insulation, there's a sub. Drywall, there's a sub. Training, there's a sub. Chemistry, there's a sub.
And then there's MEP, and those guys might, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and those guys might have their subs.
Right.
100%.
And that lack of communication, or the problem with it, can show up in those sealed and conditioned crawl spaces. Quite often, because the amount of times I go into a new construction crawl space and it's vented from the exterior with exterior vents, but we still have perimeter wall insulation
Instead of floor.
instead of underfloor. And it's like, okay, well, who went wrong with this? You know what I mean? And so,
Somebody missed this conversation.
or it's got a furnace and it's supplying conditioned air, but all of our insulation is underfloor. I've seen that too. To your point, the right hand needs to talk to the left. So if there's a miscommunication on what kind of system you're trying to create with this crawl space.
Likely 3 subs all in that right there.
Right.
I'll do before.
Well, I was just going to say probably 4, yeah. If you have to get a conditioned crawl space, A, have someone inspect it as it's getting built. B, if you're buying a house with a already conditioned crawl space, try to find the original design and if it's working as designed or installed as too.
Hopefully it was designed.
I don't think I've ever geeked out this much on trade. I love it.
When I was in the trades running work, I would grab everybody's plans and overlay them and make sure that we all knew where we were going to run into one another. And so we can make provisions for that well ahead of the wall or ceiling structure being in place.
So
Oopsies.
Yeah. So, tried to get rid of this. Yeah. Except for that one guy who said, I've been doing this 30 years. I don't need your help. And then we have to dig his stuff up.
so the plumber's not drilling through the eye joists, and
I didn't say a specific term. What do you got with you plumbers?
that's a reoccurring issue though. It was,
Avoid so many headaches if we just overlaid.
correct. Yeah. Right.
Correct. Now in houses, there's minimal plans, if any, other than building. But in commercial, overlay those plans. Contractors overlay the plans.
Communicate with one another.
You have more ends in the end.
Yes.
Kind of veering away from installation towards maintenance. So, and homeowner maintenance specifically. So during our inspections, during real estate transactions, really common for us to just be calling out equipment that is in functional order. It's delivering air to all the registers, but 50% or lower gas furnace from the 1980s, and it's beyond its typical life expectancy. How critical is either homeowner or professional maintenance in just your common residential appliances?
Well, the better you take care of your equipment, the better it's to take care of you. It's like anything in life. If you don't love your dog's not going to really love you back very much. Funny story. My wife's best friend, her and her husband bought a brand new home. But we bought homes almost like within a year each other, brand new. And years go by. And we'd visit each other and all this stuff. Kids same age. Our kids are the same age and all this stuff. And we're over at their house for a Christmas gathering. And we're in the garage enjoying some beverages. and their furnace kicked on. The furnace had in the garage and it sounded like a jet engine. And I go, why? What's going on? I go, your house is just as old as ours. And at this point, our house was like 4 years old. And Katie, my wife's best friend, says, I've been telling Mike to look at this thing forever. I go, can I look at it? Well, yeah. And they knew I was in the industry. All I did was open the filter door, and here's this filter that's never been changed in 4 years. 2 cats, 2 kids, 2 adults. Like the black brick came out.
Wasn't sucked into the blower motor yet?
No. And I take it out and the noise disappears. She goes, oh my God, that was that easy? I go, so filters should be changed in a residential household once a quarter, man. Change your oil in your car every 5,000 miles. Change your filter once a quarter. And if you have allergies, change it once a month. If you have a heating only furnace, annual maintenance is just fine. If you have heating and cooling, so you have outdoor unit, indoor unit, biannual maintenance. So maintain the heating equipment once a year, maintain the cooling equipment once a year. So 2 times a year. In the residential setting, the average furnace doesn't last. It gets changed out every 11 and a half years. That's the national average. Now, what's the reason why it gets changed out? Remember, I didn't use last. It gets changed out because you have new homeownership. They want something new. It failed. It was too noisy. Whatever. The average lifespan of a furnace with proper maintenance, you should get 15 to 20 years. My wife's best friend's furnace has been replaced.
We kind of preach that to our clients too. Like 150, 250, whatever your maintenance, annual, biannual maintenance costs is a heck of a lot cheaper than 15, 16 grand.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and that goes for water heaters too. Because the amount of homes you go into and you're running all the fixtures, and then you kind of get down to the mechanical room and that water heater's popping like popcorn, which happens because the sediment buildup in the tank, and as that water's heating, those air bubbles are trying to get through the sediment, and that's kind of popping through. So if your water heater at home is sounding like you're making popcorn every time you're taking a shower, there's some service to be done. For sure.
So 2 things that I'm going to add to that is if you're in Western Montana, get a water softener. I don't care if you're in a well or city water, get a water softener. Second thing is if you're a little bit handy, just a little bit, you could service your own water heater almost all the way. There's a little,
If it's electric.
there's a little spigot at the bottom of your water heater, and it looks like a hose could connect to it. Well, a hose can connect to it. Drain that thing once a year, especially you don't have a water softener. You will get not a headache in the middle of the night when your water heater decides to take crap, basically, and leak everywhere. Your water heater could last 15 to 20 years after that.
I might tell people this story because he inspected a house years and years ago. This gal had her water heater in the closet under the stairs and had hash marks on the wall where every holiday season she drained her water heater.
Good for her.
That water heater was 40 some years old.
To piggyback off my soapbox on water softeners. I don't offer water softeners. I don't sell water softeners, but there has been 2 newer hotels built in Missoula. We were fortunate enough to do the install on both of them. In the design, we said, put a water softener in. 2 different hotels, 2 different ownership groups, both decided not to. These hotels are less than 5 years old. One just had a catastrophic failure and they're looking at $250,000 to replace their water heaters. The other one is almost a failure. They've already replaced 1 water heater. They're going to be replacing 3 more to the tune of $200,000.
Wow. So another funny story, personal story. My bride, women love soft water for their hair and all that kind of stuff. So she was asked me for a water softener for probably 12 years. And I was like, yeah, well, someday we'll do it someday, typical husband response.
You don't got to remind me every 6 months.
What happened was I replaced several fixtures throughout the house.
Oh,
You're sure? And every one of them had the same thing in common, which was the hard water buildup in the valves and all that. So we got a water softener, and we do less cleaning because there's not the build
right
in the fixtures, not just in the faucet fixtures, but in the vessels and crap tubs and showers and all that.
Yeah, I used to just like with HRVs, water softeners like that. Oh, who needs that? Oh my gosh, you freaking need it. Especially when I see these big horrendous bills. We're like, well, hey man, we tried to tell you.
And you spend more upfront,
yes,
to save a lot more over time.
Who wants to spend money on a water softener? You're not driving it down the road. You're not getting to listen to it. You don't get to listen to it. Hopefully you don't get to listen to it.
Well, and you're looking at, when you're doing a remodel or a build, you're looking at all those numbers.
Yeah.
It's just another number.
Correct.
All that more.
I'll do that later.
In the case of the hotels, it doesn't take long.
No.
And because some pieces, and you save a lot more in the long run, sometimes the short run, but spend it a little more upfront.
But when it comes to furnaces specifically, I kind of had this realization. I still have a furnace from the 80s in my house, gas-fired forced air furnace. I'm having somebody else maintain it for me. Still has the manual next to it, and I was going through the manual, and I had all these really lovely illustrations on how to take the burners out and how to clean them and all this. Yeah, they had it in the manual, and I was looking through that. So that was kind of my question, though, is do you feel as advancements in efficiency has happened, especially furnaces have really adopted more of a closed, tight system? I would assume with that comes a much higher need for professional maintenance versus the homeowner being able to tackle it themselves, or at least that manual attempting to encourage a homeowner to tackle that. Do you think that's kind of been the trend as these appliances have gotten more closed and more efficient, more technical, the ability for the homeowner to maintain it themselves, water heaters excluded, has decreased?
What the homeowner's comfort with, I'm like every other guy out there. Don't tell me what I can't do. I'll show you how I could do it, even if it's wrong. But when you're dealing with literally something that's combusting in your house, throwing 140-degree air throughout your house, you're dealing with fire and you're dealing with gas, so you're dealing with combustible. Hey, man, if you feel confident, feel free. Me personally, I would like to hire a professional and have that peace of mind that it's done right and it's done right.
So gas appliance. That's what I'm getting. Yeah. So you're going to have a good carbon dioxide monitor and dude, but it's still just too easy to screw it up.
Right.
I mean, I know how to do most of that stuff, and I still hire somebody else to do it.
And knowing how and wanting to do it.
You see those that took a Home Depot class all the time, and then they call in a professional anyway and spend more money in the end. And we catch Joe homeowner doing, nothing against doing your own work. I mean, I've remodeled my own whole house, and the couple before this too. So, but nothing against any of that, but there does come a point where a specialist is warranted.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, you're 6 years into a 6-month remodel, right?
That's what I'd like to say.
Which is because you're living your life and you're doing your thing. You're enjoying your life. If you are one of the disciplined, rigid personalities where that lady, every holiday, she has it marked, good on you. Do it. That's one thing. But if you want to enjoy your life and enjoy time and have peace of mind that your freaking furnace is not going to blow up your house, hire somebody, please.
And safety of all inside.
You're right.
Indoor air quality is getting a lot more attention nowadays. I think I actually just recently saw in the news, not that it's necessarily totally directed towards indoor air quality, but I think New York State is banning gas services in all new residential builds.
They talked about it
Pretty
a few years ago.
That always gets me thinking about specifically stovetops, electric versus gas stovetops, and things that I walk clients through as far as, is your exhaust fan above the stove recirculating back into the kitchen, or is it actually exhausting up through the roof? And a little off topic, I'm kind of amazed that hasn't been worked into code standards yet. I think exhausting to the exterior through a kitchen vent above your stovetop should be a mandatory thing for indoor air quality. But broader terms, what are some practical steps that homeowners can take to improve their indoor air quality? Or what are you guys doing as mechanical contractors that help address indoor air quality?
So indoor air quality is a broad statement. So you could be protecting yourself from natural pollutants, pollen, dust, or you could be protecting yourself from man-made pollutants, fire, smoke, railroad dust. If you are on a forced air system, the best way to maintain indoor air quality is have a sealed ductwork forced air system, so sealed so it's not pulling in dust from your crawl space, your attic, or your walls. 4-inch pleated filter at the furnace, not at the return grill, with a filter box that is sealed and a filtration device on the supply side. So I'm not sponsored by them. There's GPS devices, there's Remy Halo devices that will put out 1 part per million of hydrogen peroxide throughout your whole house, delivered through your ducted air system. That is the best way. Now, you could, if you don't have forced air, if you have mini splits, we could put,
Or hydronic. A lot of people have hydronic.
if you don't have a forced air system, you could do room Remy Halos, you could do room air purifiers. So let's just take a scenario if we're going to say, well, I want to come back to wildland smoke. Yeah, wildfire smoke. So doors are shut. It's going to get a little muggy and stuffy inside your house. Hopefully you have cooling. If you don't, you're going to want the indoor air quality standalone systems inside your house.
Yeah.
Because we don't have forced air, we've got standalones strategically placed throughout.
So I could, there are products for your mini splits.
Like you said before, it's like they come in all classes of
They did get the Pinto or the Cadillac. Yep.
and everything in between.
So yeah, back to your comment. Yeah, I know. I used to think they don't work either until I had a rep give me one for free. And he said, hey, when you first install this, it's going to look like it's raining dust in your house. Oh, baloney. Oh my gosh. It works. It looked like it rained dust through my house. It literally picked up all the dust particles, but my wife was dusting for 2 days. But after that, it was done. I left one key ingredient out. Cleaner ductwork too.
How often?
So usage. So let's just base it on a family of 4 and a dog and a cat, or a cat and a dog. If your ductwork's sealed and you're changing your filters every quarter, ductwork should be cleaned every 4 to 7 years. So every 5 years.
And if you're moving into a brand new house, make sure it was done too.
Okay. So if you are a drywall subcontractor, please don't use the furnace to try your drywall.
That happens a lot.
Well, I mean, even in existing homes, it's very common for me to look in a floor register and there's all the loose change and Legos and dust from the last however many years.
If a customer hires you guys to inspect a home that's either new or not new, if it's new homeowner or new prospective buyer, try to negotiate getting the ductwork clean. If not, get it clean. Because if it's new, there's going to be drywall dust in there. There's going to be sawdust shavings in there. They don't mean to do it. It just happens.
If those don't get covered well during construction, then there's going to get stuff in them all the time.
Yeah.
I've pulled registers when found construction materials in the ductwork multiple times.
And more. If you're buying a home that's 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't care how old it is, and it's been lived in with a family. Hell, my kid put his Hot Wheel down our toilet. Its stuff is going to get in the registers.
Yeah.
Just clean the ducts. It's not expensive.
The registers aren't nailed down, so the kids are going to pull them up, do all kinds, whatever they do.
Yes.
Kids do weird things.
Yes. Yeah. And if they're not doing it, something's wrong. If we're supposed to be playing, right? If they're not doing it, they're spending too much time on screen.
Energy efficiency, energy costs. When it comes to HVAC systems, what are the most impactful upgrades that people can have with their existing home to improve energy efficiency and see an impact on their energy bill?
Great question. Okay. So it's all of their fuel source. So if they don't have gas option, what I mean by gas option is natural gas or propane in their fully electric, they want a heat pump. That will reduce their utility heating bill by at least 50%. If they have a gas option, but it's only propane, they want a heat pump. That will reduce their heating bill by 50%. If they have gas option and it's natural gas, they want a 90% class furnace. The new code is you have to start at 96.
What's the difference with natural gas to propane? What is that's the recommendation? More expensive? Gas valve itself?
No, propane's more expensive than natural gas.
Okay.
So it's all about the fuel source. 3 main fuel sources is going to be electric, propane, natural gas. You will run into oil, rarely. If you have just electric or propane, you want a heat pump. If you're like, hey, I'm on natural gas and I want to be green and get a heat pump, good on you, man. But you're not going to save money.
You were saying before, I don't remember if it was before or after if we started rolling, but if you have a heat pump, want to have a supplemental heat with it.
Guess what? You're already going to have it if you're on propane, because you're going to have those propane burners in your furnace. And it's programmed already where the outdoor heat pump is talking to the thermostat, and the thermostat says, hey, I want it to be 70 degrees heating in here. And the heat pump's like, I cannot produce this heat. Those burners are going to turn on and go boop and turn off that heat pump.
But like mine is all electric.
We're talking forced air for a bench. Forced air, you're going to have something called strip heat. So a big toaster, it's going to come on, boom, same scenario. Ductless, you do not have strip heat. So totally different application. You do not have strip heat. There's a subdivision in Spokane where they put all ductless in and no strip heat. Once it got below -5, that builder got a lot of phone calls, and that HVAC contractor got phone calls, and then that manufacturer got phone calls. The manufacturer said, hey, HVAC contractor, why didn't you put supplemental heat in here? It says right in our manual that it only ops rate to X amount.
Ours say -20. But -2 is when they cut out.
De-escalate. So it says negative. If it says -20, any manufacturer is going to put, I don't care what manufacturer, they're going to put their best ratings out there, say, hey, we are the most efficient, we are the best, blah, blah, blah. It de-escalates. So if you get the best model of the ductless heat pumps, I don't care what manufacturer, it's going to be -10, -15. It will put out 70-degree of heat. Once it's at its limit, when it's down to -12, it might put out 68 degrees. Now it's taking -15. It's full. Well, we can only put out 55 degrees of heat. It de-escalates really quick.
And to be fair, it wasn't -2 for a day. That was -2 for several days in a row. So it might have played a part as well.
Oh, sure.
One last thing I wanted to ask you about smart home technologies, smart thermostats. How much of an impact do those really have on efficiency and effectiveness?
I love and hate them. I love them because it's easy. Hey, I'm just going to pick up my phone and yeah, it's 68 degrees in my house. Everything's doing fine. Oh, shoot, my water bug went off. I better call my neighbor. Hate them because typically the manufacturer is owned by a company named Google, ABC. They notice your thermometer got changed and all of a sudden you're getting ads for sweatshirts.
Interesting.
Okay. But with that being said, I'm on the side of I really like it. Simply for the fact we're gone for the weekend. You have your alerts set up.
And the mechanical trade was really the first of the trades. Maybe lighting was close in there, but to have that automation and human interface. So I think that's been 30 years. I think that I've been seeing the interface at least started in commercial with the mechanical. You see a lot of the low voltage communication throughout all different areas. And so now we have brought all that technology down to quite an advanced little system where you can put it in any home now. So it's pretty crazy.
Right. So for instance, like my thermostat, so I have a Daikin system at my house. I have a Daikin thermostat, all Wi-Fi compatible. So when we were gone a couple of weeks ago, I put on vacation mode and I programmed it to come off vacation mode the day that we're coming home. Awesome, right? In that app, this is just one manufacturer in that app. If I had a zone system, what zone do I want to turn on? What zone do I want to keep cool? What zone do I want to keep hot? It's super cool and super easy to use. So I like them. Cool. I just don't like being spied on.
Fair enough. Well, Joey, there are a million different topics I feel like we could keep talking to you about. We do have to end the conversation at some point. Yeah, would really like to have you back. Maybe get more deep dive on a particular topic or something along the way. But for those few who might be watching, where can they find more information about Temp services?
Yeah, so www.temprite.com. You could always reach me out direct. Call me directly, 406-210-5693, temprite.com.
Perfect. Thanks for coming aboard. It was a good time.
Pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.